Hello, welcome to Physics 1402. I'm Professor Karen Humes, and I'm looking forward to going on this adventure into electricity and magnetism with you. Now, this is a follow-up from Physics 1401, but I will tell you that your success in Physics 1402 does not directly depend on your success in Physics 1401. There are people that will find that it's very similar because physics is physics. You've got to problem solve, you've got to think and make connections, but there are people that will struggle a little bit more with Physics 1402 because electricity and magnetism tends to be a little bit more abstract, a little more three-dimensional. In Physics 1401, you can easily push an object down a ramp, toss a ball in the air, and get a feeling for how the physics should work. We can't pluck an electron out of the air and move it around, so it's a little more difficult for some people to visualize. Plus, we'll work in three dimensions a little more often in Physics 1402 than we did in 1401. Now, there's others that will actually enjoy Physics 1402 more. Maybe you're coming from a background where you use electricity and magnetism principles in your job, or you're hoping to go into something like electrical engineering, or something that uses electricity and magnetism. Plus, at the end, we get to explore a little bit of modern physics, and there's definitely a lot of chemistry that comes in to some things like nuclear physics and how the atoms work and so forth. So hopefully there's a little something here for everybody. One of my favorite topics that we get to cover is optics. So mirrors and lenses. I think that's a really cool application that we have. So hopefully there's something here for everyone. Now, I want to give you a walkthrough of what the course looks like in D2L, so you know exactly where to find everything that you need. So the first thing here we do see is there are announcements. So I do have an announcement here. I've got to update the announcement to include everything, but make sure if I do post an announcement that you read it early in the week. So everything's opens on Mondays. So make sure to read the announcements carefully. I'll give updates, reminders, and tips for things that are relevant to this week or reflections on what I observed the week before. So really important to read the announcement. So once you've read the welcome announcement, and watch this video, hopefully you're watching that, then what we're going to do is we're going to click on content. So this is where you are going to go to find everything that you need. So we have the Start Here module, where you are going to go through and read some more detailed information on some of the items that are in the syllabus. So the syllabus will be found over here in Overview. I'm still uploading it, so it's not quite there yet, but it will be soon. But the syllabus is there. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through and read. You can learn a little bit about me, but then you need to take time to read through the tips for quality lab submissions. If you click on this link, this brings you to an example conclusion. You don't need to color code your conclusions, and this is for actually a mechanics lab, but it gives you an idea of what your conclusion should look like. And then if we go back, then there's more details specifically about the labs. Please go through and read these very, very carefully. You may not remember all of this the first time you do a lab, but you do have 2 labs due in your first week. So when you go to submit your lab, you're going to want to go line by line through this, as well as the information for the first lab to make sure you are doing everything that you are supposed to be doing, so you can maximize that. I give you some video tips for how to do things like merge documents, because you're going to have your lab handout document, you're going to have your conclusion, you're going to have your graphs. All that needs to be submitted into one single document. So there's some tips for how to do that here. You'll also need to read the tips for quality lab submissions, and when you click on that, that will bring you to the discussion rubric, which you can click and read through. You'll have one discussion every week. Discussions are due on Thursdays for original post. They're due the day before your assignments are due because they're designed to allow you an opportunity to get help, especially on the labs. That's really important. So your labs are due on Fridays, your homeworks are due on Fridays, but the discussion is due on Thursday, so you should already be working on those items and knowing where you're going to need help. So that's something you're going to have to think about to create a meaningful discussion. The more you use the discussion for help and to respond, the better the discussions will become. And they are really a good help, especially on the labs. So I really encourage you to think about doing your labs early as a learning experience. Don't save them until after you've done everything. Think of them as a way to get a visual and a hands-on view of the concepts. The syllabus quiz is the next thing that you have to take. You have to have read through the tips for quality lab submissions and the tips for quality discussions. The syllabus quiz, I do suggest you have it open. I would also have that syllabus along with this page. Okay, it's not in a lockdown browser or anything like that. So I want you referring back and forth to go through. But if you do find that after you've done it a couple times, there's still a question or two that you're missing, there's a few that are a little more subtle where you have to kind of intuit and infer to answer the questions, because I want you thinking and digging deeper into like why we're doing some of the things that are in here. And then the next thing is your introduction discussion. So those are the only two assignments that have weird due dates. Everything else is going to match the syllabus. So the introduction discussion is due Wednesday. Part of that is kind of giving ideas if you want to work with a group, is finding out who works around the same time as you do, so you can find some people to work with. I do encourage you to do that. And then the syllabus quiz, you want to do that right away, because you cannot access any of the content modules until you have taken the syllabus quiz. So you won't be able to watch the lecture videos or complete your assignments until you've taken the syllabus quiz and made 100 on it. So it says it's due October 27th, but that's the date that it's due for your ODR date, your official date of record, so you don't get kicked out of the class and dropped by Lone Star for not attending. So that does need to be done by that point, but you should do it now. Okay, do it as soon as you're done kind of reading through the information. So in general, when you look on the left, we have virtual office hours. There is a Google Meet link in there, so I encourage you to click on that. I do office hours by appointment, not because I don't want you to attend office hours. I would love to help and explain things. Sometimes there's just a mental block and you're just missing a piece of information that is preventing you from understanding a concept, and that's causing you to struggle on your homeworks or on the lab. So sometimes you just need a little meeting for that. I switched to virtual office hours to appointment only because I was sitting in front of a computer screen with nobody visiting, and that was not a good use of my time. And this also gives you more flexibility, because you can be like, oh, okay, I need time. Instead of trying to meet my schedule week, we're going to try and merge our schedules together and pick a time. So send me an email, and that's where you will find the link. Mastering Physics, this is where you will go. You'll click the link here, which will take you to the textbook. It looks a little different on my end, but if you have already gotten your STAR bundle, you should be able to access your Pearson through that. If you didn't do this, if you opted out of the STAR bundle, if you click on this, it'll allow you to access Mastering Physics. You may have to create a Pearson account if you've not used one, and then you'll be able to access your homeworks. And I think it'll allow you to do like a week's worth of assignments before you actually have to pay. So it may not prompt you to pay right away, but it will likely at some point ask for an access code or ask you to pay directly that access code on the student end. I'm not 100% sure how that works for you, because it's a little bit different. The formula sheet is here. So this is the formula sheet that you are going to use for all of your exams. I do strongly suggest, why does that keep coming up wrong? So there's a little typo here. I'll have to fix that. Again, so something's going weird, but the formula sheet is there. That will be for you for exams. You should work your homework with it, because if you're just going by like what's in the textbook, sometimes there's equations or formulas in there that are different than on the formula sheet, or there's a wide variety of stuff that's out there where you derive a formula and it's not on the formula sheet because you're expected to know how to find that formula. So you have to have that available, because that's all you're going to have on your tests. I have a link to the Desmos Scientific Calculator that's also available to you when you are taking your tests. They'll be linked in Respondus inside of the lockdown browser, so you'll always have that. So I do suggest having those two pieces of information when you do homework. Okay, obviously any calculator works, but since the Desmos calculator is the one that you're going to use on your test, it's best to get familiar with that. And that's the scientific, not the graphing. I also have some recommended tutorial websites: Flipping Physics, Organic Chemistry Tutor, and Khan Academy. These list all of their tutorial videos by topic, and these are the ones that I find most students reference and use. Flipping Physics is actually my favorite, although it's made for the AP Physics curriculum. It's appropriate for our course, and he gives lots of demonstrations, so lots of visuals, problem solving, and plus he acts like kids, so it's kind of funny. Organic Chemistry Tutor, a lot of students like, because it focuses mainly on problem solving, so if you need a lot more extra practice, because I only do a few practice problems in my lecture videos to save time, because we're really pressed for time, especially in an 8-week course. So trying to respect your time by giving you what I feel is like the minimum that you need to understand and be able to solve problems, but not give you every type of problem you might see on your homework or your test. So these 3 websites will give you more additional help on solving problems. And then there'll be modules here over on the left. After you've passed your syllabus quiz, you'll be able to see Module 1. So when you click on Module 1, the first thing that there'll be the overview. This is taken directly from the syllabus. So it has a list of items that you're going to do, the readings, the chapter readings. So like your first module, and it's done by week, is chapter 17 through 18. Not all of chapter 18, but electric charge, field, and potential. It gives you the dates that everything are due. So we've got our syllabus quiz, our introduction discussion posts, we've got our labs, the Mastering Physics assignments, so all those dates are there for you. The Mastering Physics adaptive follow-ups are optional, but if you do them, you get extra credit towards your final grade at the end. Or if you make a 90% on the actual Mastering Physics assignment, you get automatic credit for having done the follow-up. You basically are it's like you've passed basically the test, so you don't have to do that for that. There'll be a list of topics that are being covered. There's a lot more information on this first one because I'm introducing everything for you. So this is all here telling you about your due dates, a little bit more details on things. So then you can scroll down and everything's there, but if you just want to click on like lecture content on the left, these are the videos that I have made that go along with the topics. These are essentially the lectures I would give in class, so they are not specifically tutorial videos, they are lectures. And they will have embedded in them some example problem solving, so they're a good thing to watch. If you're not watching them, you're not preparing for the test, okay, in all honesty, because I'm the one that writes the test. I'm going to pull the information and I'm going to look at the Mastering Physics assignments and the lecture videos and the types of problems there for you in terms of what concepts and problems you need to be able to solve. So please watch the videos. The slides that go along with them are here. Now, I will warn in advance that this is the first time I've taught this online, so I'm making these videos as I go. So at some point in time, I may run out of time and not be able to get videos of my own. If that case, I will pull videos from the internet and I'll have some other people's videos here. But just like I do with my own videos, when I go to write a test, I'm going to pull from the topics and concepts that were in the homework and in the videos that I chose. So once again, you can go online and find whatever videos you want, but if you're not watching the videos that I've selected for you, then you're not necessarily going to be prepared for the test, because that's when I'm going to go and say, oh, we did one of those, let's pull one of those out, stick them in the test. The labs will be linked here, so each lab will be on its own thing. Our first lab requires linearization. Some of you might have done linearization before, others not. It's very common in physics, but not every professor does that for their labs. So if you have not done linearization, you want to definitely watch the video. There's some additional things there for you. Lots more reminders about the lab. There's a help for the linearization here for the specific lab if you've not done that before. And more tips for creating your document. If you've never used Vernier Graphical Analysis, this guide to data analysis walks you through how to make good looking graphs and how to, and a little more of the linearization process and an example of that there. And then whenever you have an actual lab, this is the general information. That's the assignment that you'll submit, and then the handout is here. So you have to either print this handout or use digital ink capture of your own handwriting. You cannot type your answers to that. But when you go to submit, you will submit your assignments to this folder. And you do have to have all the stuff in one single file. do a single PDF file that's your handout, any graphs that were required, and the conclusion in a single PDF. So once again, if you look at the lab instructions, there are more examples of that. So then we got lab 2 here, and then discussion 1. So this is in addition to the welcome discussion. The welcome discussion is just a little get to know you. This is your first discussion. So it, like I said, it's due on Thursday, and you have some ideas for topics here. Please do not use AI. Okay, I do not want to have to report you for using AI, and AI discussions are really boring. Just straight up, they are not meaningful to have AI tell us what you think, because it's not what you think. Okay, I'm not going to grade for perfect grammar, although you should definitely use something like Grammarly to check for like typos and spelling errors, but don't have it rewrite your sentences. Don't have it give suggestions for flow, because all it ends up sounding like is AI. I actually played around with it and had Grammarly fix some grammar, and I ran it through an AI detector before and after, and Grammarly actually does worse and sounds like AI. Okay, then when you, especially if you try to use its humanized or something like that, just don't do it. Okay, I run things through AI just to see what AI does. So if you try and create a discussion post and you want to take the time to use AI, you could probably, and make it look and sound like you actually did it, you're wasting your time, because you could have already had that 100-word discussion post already written. And by actually digging deep into what you know and what you don't know, whether it's on a homework assignment or on a lab, is actually going to help prepare you for the test, because explaining physics is one of the things you're going to have to do. So there are going to be concept questions on your test where you have to type an answer in to Respondus, and the discussions help practice, okay, with those explanations and communicating physics in a way that can be understood by others. So please don't use AI. I don't want to have to refer you for academic integrity, because you're not allowed to, okay? You also need to make sure that if you are using equations, you're either handwriting them very neatly and taking pictures that are embedded in your document so we can see them. We shouldn't have to click on it with a link, or using the equation editor that is built in. Okay, you should always be using an equation editor, whether it's in your labs or in the discussions. So I will check these discussions, especially early on in the week. I don't want to steal the opportunity for you to answer a discussion question, but if someone's stuck on a problem and it's like Monday or Tuesday, I'm definitely going to jump in, because a lot of people aren't going to be looking to answer those discussion posts. But please, if you give help, get help, that would be absolutely amazing. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. Later modules will have things like the practice exam and exams in them, but those are there for you. So you have an idea of where to find everything. So once again, complete your syllabus quiz, do your introduction discussion post, start working on those lecture videos, and email me. And if you need help, I am here to help. I want you to be successful in this class. I want 100% of you to be able to make it all the way through this course and pass. Okay, I don't want you to have to waste your time, but you're going to have to put in time and effort. This is physics, but I'm here to help. Good luck.